For 4 years, Mike Pence played the role of soft-spoken sidekick to the more crass celebrity president, Donald Trump. But now, no longer stuck under his shadow, Mike Pence is venturing out on the campaign trail across the Midwest. He's a former governor of Indiana, of course, and had voters leaving the room after the event tonight asking the question, will Mike Pence play in Peoria? They wondered if it might be a preview or a glimpse of a White House run in 2024.
80% of Americans think our country is on the wrong track. What has Joe Biden done to deserve a second term?
Do you want to see Joe Biden run for a second term?
She's going to go.
Yeah,
That's an easy question. That's not going to take long. Do you want to see Joe Biden run?
I don't want to answer that question because we have not, I don't want to answer that question.
How confident are you in President Biden's mental acuity, his sharpness in the job?
President Biden is doing the job that we asked him to do.
Nikki Haley's running for president. Just a real quick question on the presidential campaign trail. That's going to mean that Republican primary voters get an option to perhaps pick a younger generation. Should Democratic primary voters get that same option to have a younger generation candidate as a contrast in the primary? Do you want to see that option on the table?
I don't think this is a question about age.
Donald Trump dominated Iowa tonight. At last report, he won support from more than half of all Republican voters who showed up to a caucus event. And in this corner of southeast Iowa, at this high school in Keokuk, he won an even larger share from that. Just reading the room, you could tell that most of the Republicans who showed up here tonight had already made up their mind before they walked in the door. Party officials tallied Trump's win about 3 hours after they closed the doors to this big long line that snarled down this sidewalk. But for the first hour and a half, a packed gym waited anxiously for the action to start. Nearly 1,000 Republicans packed the Parkway West High School gym to measure their support for either Donald Trump or Nikki Haley. In the end, they delivered Donald Trump a resounding victory. While Nikki Haley's backers were outnumbered, they were also outspoken. I want to ask you also, though, about your comments about the criminal case against President Trump right now, the one in New York about the hush money and the falsified business records. You said it was malicious and should never have been brought. By a grand jury? You take issue with the grand jury bringing an indictment? Would you have found that information, that President Trump, former candidate Trump, was cheating on his pregnant wife with a porn star and then paying her hush money to keep her quiet about it? Would you have found that relevant information as you tried to pick a president as a voter? House Republicans are pushing to open an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Has he committed a high crime or misdemeanor?
He has committed lies.
Mr. Trump is scheduled for sentencing Thursday, July 11. That's just 4 days before Republican delegates head to the National Convention to officially nominate a candidate for president. So do they continue, and for the first time ever, nominate a convicted felon to run for president? Say that he is sentenced to jail and he's in jail during the convention. They could still nominate him. Voters could still select him. That much could still proceed. Sentencing is set for July 11, just 4 days before the GOP nominates a candidate for president at the Republican National Convention.
And can a president pardon himself?
Yes and no. Here's what we know. Yes on federal crimes, no on state crimes, at least for now.
Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, is here with the highlights. Mark?
Yeah, if you could call them that. Tonight was painful to watch. There's really no other way to say it. We saw one president call a former president a convicted felon who shot back, well, so is your son. We saw them trade insults, calling each other the worst president ever. And then something I think I've just never seen before, they started bickering over who was the better golfer. We're here on the floor of the RNC where really anything can happen in a moment's notice. It can go from a lively concert-type feel to a sobering speech. A lot of delegates are taking part in this prayer here, but what we just witnessed moments ago was Donald Trump finding his apprentice. Donald Trump, that icon of opulence and luxury and wealth, finding J.D. Vance, someone who came from very little in the coal country of Kentucky. Tomorrow night, Donald Trump takes the stage. He's already officially accepted the nomination. He gives that speech here tomorrow, and then 4 weeks of Democrats deliberating over whether or not Joe Biden will ultimately face him in November. And thousands of Republican delegates are now pouring out of the Fiserv Forum after seeing Donald Trump enter the arena with that bandage over his ear. And the name on their lips tonight is J.D. Vance, the former Trump critic who once called Trump the opioid of the masses, but now the acclaimed author who so eloquently described how substance abuse can hollow out rural American towns. He joins the ticket with Trump to help illustrate that American carnage as they go about pitching the Republican ticket to American voters. Mike and Kelly, good evening from Milwaukee. The crowds are filing in. The stage is set. Kid Rock just completed his mic check. We were inside the Fiserv Forum watching in the convention hall as that choreography centered around the image of Donald Trump raising his fist in the air in defiance and survival after that near assassination attempt on Saturday. That is the image that will last tonight. That's what Republicans are focusing on. It's become something of a Republican rallying cry about Trump defying the odds. The reality TV star who dabbled in WWE entertainment, the celebrity showman who showed that command and stage presence under pressure in Pennsylvania, the same brash politician who waged grievance campaigns against Congress, the courts, corporations, and celebrities alike. Now the insurgent who has hammered every living Republican presidential nominee before him prepares to take the stage tonight and take that room into a new era of the Republican Party now made in his image.
Standing up and yelling "fight, fight, fight" after getting shot, it's pretty remarkable recovery time, I think. It's a tough guy. It takes a tough guy to do something like that.
Trump will share the stage tonight with other hype men, the front men taking the stage before him, including Tucker Carlson, the head of the UFC, Dana White, and the WWE pro wrestling celebrity Hulk Hogan. The theme there, obvious, tough guy politics on tap in Milwaukee, and all of this coming as people close to President Biden see him at his most vulnerable, at his weakest, setting up a dramatic 4-week march toward the Democratic National Convention in Chicago this same time next month. Kelly and Mike, good evening from Milwaukee. It's loud, it's raucous in here. The former First Family just leaving the stage and balloons falling from the rafters. I'm here alongside Illinois Congressman Mike Bost. We're going to hear from him in a moment, but first let's just recap the political history we just watched unfold here. We have to mention this is the first time in American history that a convicted felon has accepted a major party's nomination for president. We begin the record with breaking developments in the race for president. This is one for the record books. With 107 days until the general election, President Joe Biden announces he will not seek re-election. What comes next is organized chaos. The Democratic National Convention kicking off in 29 days, just 4 weeks from tomorrow. Thousands of delegates are now unbound and free to nominate and vote for the candidate they prefer to run for president. Should this convention truly be an open one, and what is the healthiest way for the party to bring voters into this convention conversation? Good evening from Chicago. You know, we saw TV and political history of a different kind tonight. For the first time ever, a sitting first-term president addressed this Democratic National Convention and asked America to vote for someone else. In Minnesota, they call him governor. In the National Guard there, they called him a command sergeant major. Tonight, Democrats will call him Coach Walz. Tim Walz addressing the DNC about his vision as Kamala Harris's running mate. We bring you all the highlights tonight at 10. For now, it's 76 days until the big election, or in Walz coaches speak, if you will. It's the fourth quarter. The Democrats are down 3, but they've got the ball and momentum on their side. The way he really rallied Democrats here, it was almost like a halftime speech, maybe the biggest halftime speech of his career. And the way he had him going, you might have held this thing at Soldier Field. So tonight we saw Kamala Harris, the prosecutor, Kamala Harris, the politician, and Kamala Harris, the potential president, cross-stitching a coalition of voters across the country, a path she thinks can lead her to the White House as president, the first female president in our nation's history. The dynamics have switched in just an instant like that. 4 weeks ago at the RNC, we told you that Democrats were sleepwalking into Armageddon. Now they're supercharged and sprinting toward November. And you saw Trump there trying to tie her to Biden. Watch what happens here. Vice President Harris actually aligns herself with Republicans, but she also baits Donald Trump by taunting him on crowd sizes. Then he quickly goes off course and starts trumpeting unconfirmed and disputed rumors about Haitian immigrants. At least 20% of the vote is already in Florida. There, Donald Trump is leading the 3 states we can project a winner in. Donald Trump winning in Indiana, winning in Kentucky, and Kamala Harris claiming her first victory in the state of Vermont. We're going through all the results. You have a live look here at the Electoral College vote with some results coming in. Donald Trump leading in North Carolina, Kamala Harris clinging to a lead in Pennsylvania, but trailing now in Wisconsin. Still too early to call. And what a presidential race it has been. It started with Donald Trump. He was indicted. He was facing all of these criminal trials. Then we saw Joe Biden drop out after that disastrous debate performance and Kamala Harris jump in so late in the game. Donald Trump surviving an assassination attempt, and Donald Trump becoming the only Republican in American history to represent that party as its standard bearer, as its nominee, 3 races in consecutive order, back to back to back. That's never happened before. Only Democrats have done that. So he's galvanized his control as leader of the Republican Party, and now he stands just 40 electoral college votes away from returning to the White House. But Kamala Harris is not counting this out just yet. There are a few reasons why. When you look at Michigan right now, the lead, it's shaded red because Donald Trump leads there, but most of the votes left to be counted in Michigan remain in the Detroit area. The Harris campaign feels confident they can still hold on and win there. They're a little bit less confident in Wisconsin. The results from Wisconsin are just in overnight. The votes have been counted there, and those electoral votes for the state of Wisconsin are now in the category for Donald Trump. That brings him across the 270 electoral vote threshold. That means Donald Trump becomes only the second person ever in American history to return to the White House after losing that interrupted streak, joining Grover Cleveland and rare company there. Donald Trump now the president-elect. We can call that as an official result, the result a lot of people have been waiting up all night for. 71 million votes and counting for the former president, now the president-elect Donald Trump. Good morning, Michelle and Rennie. That's right, we were just watching moments ago. This number was 267, and of course, Alaska we thought was going to go red, Republican. Those 3 electoral votes would have brought the former president to 270, helping him clinch, but then the vote totals became clear. The statistical and mathematical probability ran out. Kamala Harris ran out of road in what was the blue wall. Now it looks like a red wall, completely replaced by the Republican nominee for president, now the president-elect, Donald Trump. And if we take a look at the battleground states, it looks as though he may be in prime position to sweep all 7